Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We've looked at lots and lots of different words in season 3, but this I think is going to be one of my favourite today. We're going to look at the word music and we're talking to Daniele de Lissandri. Have I said it right then?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's Daniele de Lissandri. Yeah, just kind of blend it all together.
You know, it's kind of musical in itself, isn't it? It's a bit of a lyrical name, but I'm going to call you Dan from now on.
Yeah, Dan is fine. That's what most people call me DJ Dan. Everywhere I go, they kind of say it's DJ Dan. So, but that's fine. That's what like young people call me and things, and it's easy just to remember that.
I'm probably not street enough to call you DJ Dan the whole way through.
You can call me that. It's fine.
Welcome, Dan. Before we get into the multiple things that you're doing with music, can you tell me, and I mean, can you tell me, what does the word music mean to you?
It's a big question because music has such an important part of everyone's lives in different ways. People engage with music in so many different ways, don't they?
Yeah.
For me, and it's a bit of a cliche to say this, but music is life, and I think that's for everyone. I mean, you can think about how we consume music, how we engage with music, how we participate in music. It really is just a huge part of our lives, isn't it? Everywhere we go, you can't get away from it, can you? Whether you're watching television, in the car, listening to music in the car, at the gym, in the supermarkets, whatever. It's just everywhere, and it's just a huge part of our life. And for me, I've kind of approached this is to kind of split it into 3 areas. So for me, I'd say that music is obviously life. It's a huge part of my life. It's living. It's how I make a living out of music, and it's a love of mine, you could say. And I kind of say it's like probably one of the biggest loves, alongside my family, my wife, and my children.
Yeah. I
really am fascinated by music and how it's made, how it's performed, and what it can do to people. So how it can change how we feel, how it increases our mood, our hormones, our endorphins, how it excites people in so many different ways. So I see firsthand what it can do to people. I think I'm quite lucky to have made a living out of it, and I can see what an effect it has on people, whether I'm sort of teaching music to people, performing music as a DJ at events and weddings and clubs and bars and things. You can really see how it moves people, because I love to share my love of music to other people, really. So, and I don't know, for me it's all I've ever wanted to do as a young person growing up. There wasn't really anything else I could ever imagine doing, and it's the only thing I really kind of knew and understood, and I think I'm quite blessed that I've managed to make a life from it. So as you have as well, Carol. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Super. What a great answer. Just before I'd like to get into how music first came into your life. But before we do that, I'm going to ask a question that most people absolutely hate. I always get told off when I ask this question. And I did ask you the question prior to the podcast, but only just because of the bigness of the question. But what's your favourite piece of music?
My favourite piece of music, and that's something I ask to people a lot when I approach. For example, I do a lot of DJ workshops and music production workshops and things, and it's kind of, what music are you into? What do you like? And my favourite piece of music, if I was going to boil it down to one, I'd probably say it's the track by Massive Attack, Unfinished Sympathy.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of one of lots of people's favourite tracks. So I'm not just jumping on a bandwagon, but it really is an amazing piece of music. And every time you hear that, the introduction, there's just a couple of beats at the beginning, and it just goes into the drum beat, and you hear like the percussion, and you hear everything, and it just really kind of lifts me up, you could say, and it kind of
Yeah.
just it captures my attention immediately. There's loads of other tracks I could name which really kind of inspired me with my music and my music making, and but yeah, that's just one track that I absolutely love, and I know loads of other people do, and so yeah, that's what I think it is.
That's great. As I said, I always get told off, Dan, because I say to people, what's your favorite song, particularly being in a choir? And I think I expect people to just say, oh, it's this. And they always say, don't ask me to choose one. I don't know what song. I like lots of different songs. I like this because I like opera, and I like this because I like house music. And then
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I don't know if I could name my favorite song. I think the song that has probably speaks the most to me and is the most Carol is Sing by My Chemical Romance. That kind of sing it from the heart, sing it till you're nuts, sing it out till the world hate your guts. That's very poor lyrics. But
it's each to their own, isn't it? I think
yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Music is so personal, and you can't really say, oh no, that's rubbish. I
Yeah,
mean, it's subjective, isn't it, really? So, and it's kind of what one person likes isn't necessarily what someone else likes, and it's no one can tell you it's wrong. It's not.
yeah,
It's personal. It's yours, isn't it? And it's kind of comparable to like food taste. If someone's like, oh, I don't know, I don't like cheese, you're not gonna kind of go, no, that's wrong. That's incorrect. You have to like cheese. So it's personal. It's people's preferences, and people like music in different ways. It's kind of when depending what mood you're in, what the weather's like outside, and
yeah.
where you are. If you're in the car, whatever. It just it's for all occasions, all different
Yeah, and it
places.
does. It changes, doesn't it? We used to do something at choir. We've not done it because we're a bit of a shorter time limit now. But something called Pick of the Week, and
Hmm.
each choir member would say a song, and we all had to listen to it. And it didn't matter what our musical tastes were. We all had to listen to it, and sometimes they would say kind of what it meant to them. But what it meant for us was we got to know the choir member a little bit, and it was a and also it was a tolerance thing as well. And I used to do it with my youth choir, because you're right, we shouldn't say well, no, that piece of music is rubbish, but we do. We
Mm.
often do. People
Hmm.
do. And they say, oh, you're a young person, you listen to, my mum used to call it ticky ticky music, Dan. We listen to ticky ticky music. It's got no no lyrics and no sense, but for that young person it does, for that
Hmm.
older person who's playing the, in quotes, boring music. For
Hmm.
that older person, it's bringing back something, or it
Absolutely.
might be bringing back something. You know how much they use music in dementia, and it
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
unlock something. So we
Hmm.
don't have any right to say
No,
this
and it really
music's,
does. It really does unlock something in your brain, I
yeah,
think. And if I listen to some music, occasionally a song might pop on, or if I listen to like some old music that I used to listen to, and it's literally like a time machine, isn't it? It will
yeah,
take you back to that moment in time. I mean, in particular, like when I first started going out clubbing and raving when I first went to university, and I hear some of that music now, and it literally transports me back to being in that club. It was Gatecrasher in Sheffield I used to go to,
yeah,
and some of the music, it was just like, and it really just it's like you're there again. It sounds a bit cheesy saying that, but it really does transport you back. And yeah, just those feelings that you get from that, really, I think it's really powerful, I think. And it's I don't know, I think music is probably, that people might disagree with this, but it's probably one of the only art forms that you don't have to sort of use your brain or anything to kind of to appreciate it, to consume it or anything like that. You just listen to music, don't you? Whereas I don't know, with drawing, painting, writing, even watching a film, reading a book, you have to use your brain to kind of experience it. I don't know. Whereas with music, you just kind of let it take over you, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, it kind
Mm.
of, yeah, it can just wash over you, kind of. Obviously when you're producing music, writing music,
Yeah.
that's a different level. But yeah, when you're, I do know exactly what you mean. And when you
Mm.
put the radio on, the music is kind of there.
Hmm.
Whereas reading a book, you have to actually read the words, or
Yeah.
drawing, you have to do the draw. I do understand. So
Yeah,
please
yeah.
don't send us hateful emails about not using your brain for music. We
Yeah.
definitely use our brains for music.
Of course, absolutely, yeah.
But
Yeah, but it's just, yeah, it
yeah,
brings people
absolutely.
together in so many ways and
Yeah.
things, and it's just a really, really important part of our lives, really, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
but
And I
yeah.
wonder if that is why, for people that are like suffering with dementia, or for
Mm,
people like myself who, when I'm having a very bad day with my chronic illness, music does kind of supersede all that. You can
mhm,
get something from it. There is that level of healing and connection where you don't have to do anything, and yet you still get the benefit of it. And I think that's really important, and that's quite a
mm,
key thing.
yeah.
Tell us a bit about what you do with music, Dan. How do you use it?
Yeah. So I use music in a number of ways, and obviously I love listening to music. I listen to music all the time, different styles of music, and it plays a big part of my life. I just love listening to music all the time. So it's but in terms of me making a living from it. So one of my words there is so living. So making a living from music. I in a number of ways. So I'm a DJ and a music producer. So I perform in bars and clubs in like Leeds and West Yorkshire, mainly up in the north.
Yeah.
I do weddings and functions and a bit of corporate work. So and that's basically sort of play music, either whether it's background music. I work in a darts bar in Leeds and just sort of play background music,
Yeah.
or I might be in a nightclub and there's hundreds of people dancing. I would also put on my own nights with some of my friends, sort of bar nights, club nights, things like that. So but alongside that, I produce my own music. So for a number of years, I create music on sort of music production software.
Yeah.
My favorite one is Ableton, which
Hmm.
is one of the most popular ones, Ableton Live, and you can use it for producing music and you can use it as a live performance tool. And that's basically using like software-based instruments, sort of soft synths and plugins and drum machines to create music. But I love making dance music. That's one kind of genre of music that I really understand and I've learned to create over the years. But so that's kind of the DJing in like clubs and bars and my production of music. That's kind of like I call it a professional hobby.
Yeah.
And but then I make a real living from teaching and passing on my musical knowledge and skills to other people. Um, and I kind of got into it, when was it, about sort of, I'd say about 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I was working for an arts organisation funded by the Arts Council. Originally it was called Cape UK, and they were the bridge organisation for the Arts Council
Yeah.
in the country. And I was doing that. Before that, I was working in like a call centre. I was working for an estate agency. I was made redundant because of the housing crash, but I saw this job as an administrator for an arts organisation. So I started working there, and I learnt more about the world of the arts, this kind of landscape, how schools operate with arts and cultural organisations. I was involved with an arts-based qualification for young people called Arts Award,
Yeah.
and I used to go out and train up people. And for so many years, so I was working with people who worked with young people,
Yeah.
and I was always a bit envious of them that they were working with young people, and I really wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So I started volunteering at a local youth group, where I was working, gave me a couple of opportunities to do like a placement for a youth organisation. And for a number of years, I could DJ really well, I could produce music really well. So I started basically taking my DJ decks down to a local youth group, gained experience there, and then shortly after that, I set up a not-for-profit DJ school in Leeds, and we used to go into schools, youth groups, used to go into prisons, like young offenders institutes,
Yeah.
into SEND schools, and basically just rock up with a set of decks with a load of music and
Yeah.
just basically teach people how to DJ. And it's one of the things with DJing, I'd say, with other musical instruments, when you teach DJing, it is very accessible. So many people would be like, oh, I can't play the piano, I can't play any musical instruments. But with DJing, you can teach it relatively quickly. You can show people how to use the equipment, And it can look quite daunting. If you look at a set of decks, there's lots of buttons, things flashing at you, things that you have to press and turn and things like that. But once you get over the basic controls of a DJ deck, literally anyone can use it. They can be 4 years old up to 90 years old. And it's, I think people are often misunderstood what DJing is, that it's some sort of, you need to have a really high level of skill to be able to DJ. But I mean, ultimately, it's playing music and playing music that you like, and allowing people to take control of an activity or something musical, something creative. And yeah, you're letting them be in control of the music. They can choose the music that they want to play. They can choose to play it for 30 seconds, for the length of a song. They can rewind it. They can manipulate it. You can use effects. And yeah, it's just really, really accessible. So so what I do now for a living, a big part of my job is I've since then I've left the DJ school and I've set up another organization called the Music Box, based in Pudsey. And I run sort of after school clubs, and I've got I work in a high school every week. On a Tuesday I work in an academy in West Leeds, and they've really invested a lot of time and money into DJing, and they've got a whole room dedicated for DJing. They've got computers with DJ controllers and everything set up.
That's good.
And I literally just go in there every week. I've done it for 5 years, and teach young people how to DJ. So, and I've worked with young people when they started with me in year 7 right up to when they're doing their GCSEs, and now you can DJ for your your GCSE performance element.
Oh,
So
that's cool. You couldn't do that when I was a kid.
I know, exactly. I really wish they could. But yeah, so I basically teach young people how to DJ, and actually the hardest part of this is getting them to go back to their lessons, because they've only got 20 minutes with me, like in pairs.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
my biggest obstacle, is trying to get them back to their lessons, because they just want to stay with me and
Bet.
DJ and play music. And they don't really see me as a teacher down there, really, I guess. But yeah, and it's just I just love engaging young people in music in an alternative way, and showing people that you can engage in music using DJ technology, or many of them now are really interested in music production, like remixing songs, and how the technology has developed, how the software has developed over the years. It's pretty remarkable what you can do these days. Even on a phone, on a smartphone, you can download music apps, and people can engage with music for free. Whereas when I first started, you had to spend quite a lot of money on the equipment and things. So yeah, so my job is basically teaching people, engaging people in music-based activities using technology, and it's just amazing. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And everywhere I go, and it's just basically teaching people how to use music in a different way.
That's nice. I think one of the words that comes to mind is accessible, actually, Dan, because I remember when I was in a band years ago, probably about 25 years ago now, maybe even more than that. And I remember we had one of those massive mixing desks, and my friend had a Ford Capri, really like low wheelbase Ford Capri, and we used to sit, and then the mixing desk would kind of go between us just before the what's this called, the window,
the dashboard.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Right, squeezed in between us. It was so big, and then we'd have all the amps and things in the boot. Not anymore, and I'm very relieved about that.
Like most technology, it's got smaller.
It has got.
When you think about phones, mobile phones, computers, everything's got smaller. And it's the same with music equipment, I guess, and except for like guitars and things. Even amps pretty much have stayed the same. But you can get new ones and things,
but also accessible in terms of, you said you worked in a school where they've got a dedicated room. Wonderful. Because still so much in education is, the 3 R's, and maybe we'll do music now and again because it's nice, but we know it's not nice. It's not about that. It's about the conversations that you have because you've made a connection with the young people. It's about the expressiveness of being able to get thoughts and feelings out that you would not say to somebody else, but you would put it in a rap, or you would put it into the types of music that you listen to. It's about that, isn't it? And that making that accessible is so important. And I know about the Arts Council, and it was just so good to have things like that. And anybody listening that has got any influence in terms of funding for those kind of things, please keep working towards bringing those things back, because that funding is just disappearing, isn't
It
it?
really has, isn't it? I mean, when
Yeah.
I first started doing it, there was a lot more funding available, I think, for
Yeah.
organisations and youth workers and youth services,
Yeah.
but it's really diminished over the years. And I mean, it is out there, but you have to. It's much harder to get. It's probably more competitive because there's less
Yeah.
less money out there, you could say. But I mean, we set up the music box. This is myself and Kate Fraser, who I work with, and
Yeah.
we've got a couple of other directors who help us decide what to do with the business and to run ideas past. But we set it up. One of the reasons was where we live in West Leeds in Pudsey, there was a huge problem, and there still is really, with antisocial behaviour
Yeah.
in the area with young people with nothing to do. I said to say there's nothing to do. There's always stuff for them to do. But so one of the things I wanted to do, set up the music box so that we could use music as a way to engage with young people, and especially those who are at risk of crime or antisocial behaviour.
Yeah.
So we're able to get some funding to set up a local youth group, which is still running now on a Friday night in Pudsey.
Great.
And there's about 50 young people who hang around in the park who, to be honest, can look quite intimidating.
Yeah.
Local residents are pretty scared of them. But once you get to know them, once you get to sort of work with them a bit, they're fine. They're like any young people, you could say. So we set up this youth group, and so currently there's about 40 young people who come down every week.
Brilliant.
We alternate. One week we've got DJing, and then another week we've got a rapper who comes down. And it's a really good way of building those relationships with those young people, so that you can hopefully make a positive difference with them in the future. And I like to think that if you can influence a generation, that will then drip down to the next generation. And the things they like are music and rapping, and literally they all pile in every week, and we give them microphones and we whack up the bass on the speaker, and for about an hour and a half they just love it, and they're rapping or they're DJing. And I think we need to do more things like that. It's just a shame that there isn't more funding available. It's not like a big part of other parts of the country, and obviously it's a national problem, I think, with antisocial behaviour. It's getting worse and worse.
Potentially challenging question, but I think it's quite an interesting one. What's the behaviour like when they're in the room? Like, how do you find tolerance levels, waiting turns? Because obviously you can't have 40 people on the mic at that. I'm assuming can't have 40 people on the mic at the same time. How does it compare?
I'd say not all of them are participating in the actual activity. So there's probably only about, I mean, out of 40, you've probably got maybe like half a dozen who actually would take the microphone, who are confident rappers, who have got experience doing it. There's a rapper we bring down, a drill rapper, a grime rapper called Dialect, Leeds based, and he'll just start them off and start rapping, play some of his songs, show them a few things, and a lot of them have got experience of rapping, so they know what to, as they would call, spit bars, sort of improvise. And so that's one way of them engaging, but everyone else is kind of listening. They might not be directly engaging, but they are kind of part of it. They're part of the experience, which I think is really important. And the youth services, so we work with Leeds City Council Youth Services, and they do more of the kind of awareness, the kind of advising them about maybe life choices, suggesting things that they can do. And they do other stuff with them outside of the youth group as well, if they identify people that may be vulnerable. And then with the DJing, it's kind of like, some people might just come and do it for like 10 minutes. Some people stay for the whole session and do it. And again, it's just allowing people to express themselves through the technology with the music that they like. Some of the music is kind of not the most appropriate at times. So we have to kind of maybe talk to them a little bit about that. But it's just letting them giving them a bit of free rein, and again letting them have some control over what they're doing with the technology and with the music. And whereas in other places they're told that they can't do that, like school, they're not allowed to do that. And so it's really good that they can come to our sessions and engage in something positive.
And I wonder how much, the reason I asked is because you know, young people particularly do get such a bad press, and you do wish that people would see them in that environment and see that they can be tolerant, they can wait, they can be patient,
Hmm.
and they can just be, quite frankly, brilliant.
Yeah.
And why that is, what the difference is. And I think that permission, and I think music does do that. It does give you permission. I know when I did choirs in schools, I used to say, you can sing, we can sing whatever song you would like, but you must be able to sing it in front of your parents and your
Mm-hmm.
head teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Because they would ask for things like LMFAO, and I'd say, but first of all, it's incredibly difficult to sing, and second of all, the words are not going to be appropriate. And then the only rule we had was that we wanted it to make us feel good in
Yeah.
some way. Now, I totally get that with young people, there may be a lot of songs, a lot of swear words that make them feel good. And that's the interesting bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I do wish that more people could see young people in that environment, because they flourish, don't they? They
They
absolutely.
do. They really do. And yeah, it's important that they've got somewhere that they can go, which they can sort of make their own, that they feel comfortable in, that they can enjoy themselves. And I think, I mean, as you get a bit older, I think it's somewhere you can go to, sort of like nightclubs, and you can go out and you can socialize with friends. Whereas that's sort of age in between, sort of, I don't know, young teenagers to older teenagers, is not really where they can go to kind of enjoy themselves and really socialize, really. So yeah, I think it's important that we have those youth groups, and there is funding available for more engaging activities for them.
I'm loving talking to Dan all about music. Of course, Raise is also a music project, and we love all things music. Whether you're wanting to join our Raise Your Voice choirs, or you'd like a bespoke jingle to give you a confident and creative brand identity, please get in touch with us on our socials, either Instagram or Facebook. Back to the episode. So, Dan, we've just been talking about young people and music. What got you into music? I mean, did you have like a musical family background? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I grew up in East London, and yeah, it's very difficult to obviously pinpoint exactly when it was that I started engaging with music. And
Sure.
I always remember my parents telling me that my elder sisters used to have piano lessons, and while they were having their lessons, at the end of their lesson, while they were still talking, I used to go in and start messing around on the piano. So my parents sort of saw that I was kind of more, so I was quite into it. I was quite fascinated by the piano and music in particular. So my background's Italian. My dad's Italian, so every year we used to travel to Italy for about 4 weeks. We used to spend up in northern Italy, a city called Padova or Padua,
Mm-hmm.
where where my nonna lived, and all my family, my Italian family, lived over there. And on the way, my parents used to listen to opera CDs, classical music CDs. So I basically just had to hear classical music and opera music all the time. And it's quite funny actually now when I hear famous pieces of music that they used to play me about. Now I can remember all the melodies, you can remember everything, and it just stays in your brain. But so I was kind of exposed to classical music a lot. And so I had piano lessons, and after that, in primary school. When the music services had more funding, I was allowed to play the cello. I was given a
Mm-hmm.
cello, and I had a weekly lesson in primary school. And I played cello for years, well into my time at high school. When I went to high school, I was kind of I kind of wanted to move on to a different instrument as well as playing a cello. Brass instruments always interested me, so
Yeah.
and there was an option for me to learn to play a brass instrument. And I think my mum always wanted me to play a French horn for some reason, but when I was given the option, I chose a trumpet because it was smaller and I could carry it around. And for years and years, I had to take this massive cello on the bus, and I used to leave it on the bus, and my parents used to have to go and pick it up from the depot and things like that. But So having a trumpet was much easier to carry around, and it was a bit cooler. I think the trumpet was a bit cooler.
Oh,
See,
all steady.
yeah, a bit cooler than the cello. Although looking back now, the cello's pretty cool, isn't it? I think it's pretty cool.
Dan, I used to play the double bass.
Did you? Okay,
Yeah.
I feel you. I feel your pain. So yeah, so for years and years I played in orchestras. I went through the grading system, the Associated Board grading system, did my grade 5 theory, and then I went on to do GCSE music and then A-level music. But in terms of music, I think it's in terms of my music, what the sort of music that I got into as a youngster, it probably wasn't until I was about, I don't know, 11, 12 years old that I really started paying attention to music. And I think a lot of it came from just your friends that you're hanging around with.
Yeah.
And I think friendships and groups of friends have a massive influence on what sort of pathway you took with music. Maybe it's probably the same now, I guess, with young people. But I remember all my friends were really into like rap music. It was when like Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre came out, and everyone loved it. And we used to go to like these like obviously birthday parties and stuff and play this sort of music. And so I was really into like 90s rap music for a number of years. But I fell out with a few friends. I moved friendship groups, and then I got really into like rock music and heavy metal. And my first gig I went to was at Donington Park, Monsters of Rock in 1995, I think it was, with Metallica headlining. So that was my first kind of experience of music at a gig, at a music festival. And then after that, I got really into like rock music and heavy metal, and we used to go up into London to the Astoria or to Brixton Academy and go to these like big heavy metal concerts, these big rock concerts. And back then, I mean, I was probably only about 14, 15 years old, but we could get a ticket for like £5, £6 midweek. We used to get on the tube into London, go to a gig, come back again. And yeah, so for many years, I was never really in a band or anything. I always wanted to play the guitar, or I did sort of sing in a band for a bit, but it wasn't until like I went to university that I really got into dance music, and I started getting interested in, for example, like the Prodigy, Chemical Brothers. There were some rock bands, heavy metal bands that did like remix albums, like dance music remixes. And I used to always hear like dance music. My sister, who's like 9 years older than me, she used to go out like raving a lot in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s, when there was like the huge raves going along, or these big illegal raves before they brought the bill in to make them totally legal.
Yeah.
So I used to always hear
illegal and then totally illegal.
and then totally, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. But then I guess before that, you didn't really have that sort of music in clubs, did you? It's all kind of like organized raves, and so I was always fascinated. She used to always have these flyers up in her bedroom, and I used to be quite fascinated by what it was. And that's when dance music really started coming through in the mid 90s, late 90s, I would
yeah, because
say.
it wasn't really known, was it? And then suddenly acid house became a thing,
Mm.
and then the wonderful acid came out like in the charts, and
Yeah,
it suddenly started going, oh right, this is a thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it really brought people together. So I think before then it was pretty. I mean, I don't really remember it because I was born in '81, and I didn't really kind of remember much of the '80s sort of growing up, but snippets and that. But obviously, looking back, it was quite a tough time for people. I think surviving, wasn't it, and working and making a living. Whereas the rave scene, dance music, really brought everybody together. So you used to get people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different nationalities would come together to these raves, and everyone was one. Everyone was part of this kind of huge movement. And yeah, I got into dance music probably at the back end of that in mid to late 90s. And so yeah, I went to university, Sheffield University. I was based in Barnsley, so I used to go out, like I said, to Gatecrasher and all these kind of big super clubs. And this was back in the day when they had these massive super clubs, huge buildings with like 4 or 5 rooms, and a lot of them have closed down now. I think that scene's moved on to kind of smaller clubs or warehouses or festivals, music festivals instead. But yeah, that was my kind of real experience of dance music and going out clubbing, and I fell in love with it. And I was like, immediately, I want to learn how to DJ. I want to buy some decks. And a funny story, actually, how I got my first set of DJ decks. One of my cousins who lives in Plymouth owns a scrapyard, car scrapyard, and one day he opened a boot of a scrap car and found it was a brass instrument in there. He had no idea what it was. Turned out it was a Stradivarius flugelhorn, which was probably worth
Wow.
brand new, probably about, I don't know, easily £1,000. So he knew that I played the trumpet, and he
Yeah.
was like, Daniele, would you like this instrument? I don't know what to do with it. You can have it. So I got this instrument, and I didn't really play it. I was kind of, it was when I started sort of stopping playing
Yeah.
musical instruments. So I sold it to a friend of mine for about £800, and I bought my first set of decks with that. So that was how it kind of began. And I literally bought 2 records and 2 dance music records, and then taught myself to beat match with those 2 records for about 2 weeks, going back and forth with 2 records. And then I started buying more and more records, and then got into it a bit more. So that's how I kind of got into music. And at university, so I went to university and studied creative music technology for 4 years,
Cool.
based in Barnsley, and learnt more about music production, learnt more about recording, and the whole world of DJing. And this was before sort of digital DJing came out. It was all vinyl based.
Yeah.
And obviously way before social media came out. And,
Yeah.
which was it was lovely back then, wasn't it? Without social media, and there wasn't
Much
all
more
of
peaceful.
that. Much more peaceful, less pressure, and it was
Yeah.
more, people went out and, I don't know, socialized more, and it was more about just being together in the
Yeah.
moment. And there's less evidence, there's less photos of that time as well, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, it's nice that that took place, and that influenced obviously my career now, you could say. So the DJing, and like I said, then I went on to work and got into teaching from there. So yeah.
That's brilliant. Just to pick a few things out of there. First of all, I wonder, I'm from West London, and I wonder how much being in the capital influences music, because I think there's a lot, the music scene in London has always been big and quite accessible. And as you said, just being able to jump on a tube easily. We didn't need to drive in the same way, because public transport in London is so easy. And so I do wonder if that and the whole, it's just so multicultural, the different types of music that you're exposed to, particularly around London. And the second thing was when you were saying about listening to classical music, and I know you didn't use the words I had to, but I think sometimes people think they kind of have to listen to their parents' music. But with my 10-year-old son, we always argued in the car, because he wanted to listen to classical music and I wanted to listen to chart music. And I'd be like, please, it's just Bruno Mars, just let me, no, I want to listen to Elgar. I was like, oh, this is like, he was like 3. I was like, oh, crying out loud. He now listens to Imagine Dragons as well as Elgar and things like that. But it's interesting, isn't it? And it's so important, because I could have said to him, Seb, you're a kid. You don't want to listen to classical music. You need to listen to, the stuff that your peers are listening to. But, I've not got any right to do that. And he loves classical music and the things that, he has always had such an ear for it. And actually, he's done a little podcast episode himself on the Raise podcast, and that segues beautifully into what you've been doing with some of your young people recently. So tell us about them producing their own podcasts, because I'm loving that.
Yeah, excellent. So we the Music Box, and we run after school clubs. So we run I run a DJ club on a Wednesday night. We run a guitar club and a rock band project as well. And we've also run a music making club. So the rock band project and the music making club came from a fund from the Anne Maguire Foundation. I don't know if you've heard of that. A teacher who was sadly killed in her school in East Leeds 2 years ago, and they set up a foundation for her because of her love of music, and
Wow.
perform music and everything. So we managed to get some 2 years worth of funding to run an after school club, a rock band, a youth rock band project. We've done a couple of gigs, and the other one's a music making club. And when we first started doing it, it was more teaching young people how to produce music on sort of different pieces of technology.
Yeah.
I bought a couple of iPads, and it's pretty amazing actually. You give a young person an iPad and they instantly know what to do with it, and they know how to make music on it immediately, and it's pretty remarkable. In particular, GarageBand, we used GarageBand and a couple of other apps. But this term we've decided to, and we kind of mentioned it last term, we've decided to do a podcast project this term as the Music Box. We're calling it In the Box, and it's basically all of the content is created by the young people. So from the introduction to the jingles, to segue into the different sections, the topics that they're talking about. So for example, we're getting them to talk about their musical influences, artists, bands, rappers that they like, the music that they create in the club as well. We're getting them to play that as part of the podcast, and then we'll teach them how to kind of edit it, how to sequence it in the right order, thinking about how to present themselves. And I mean, some of these young people are quite shy, but when it comes to like giving them that opportunity to talk about a subject, they really come out of their shell, and they're really, really keen to get involved. And then eventually, by the end of term, we'll put it up on a broadcasting platform, or on SoundCloud, or Hear This At, or somewhere like that, and then we can share it with their friends and family and the community to kind of show the sort of work that we do. But it's fantastic, again, using technology to engage young people, and it's same word comes up, it's very accessible, and once you kind of show them what to do, and I find that a lot of my work actually, it's kind of once you give them the tools and the understanding how to use the technology, you kind of just leave them to it and let them explore it themselves. And I find myself a lot in sessions just kind of just going around and listening to what they're doing and giving them my opinions and giving them some feedback on it and tips and tricks and things like that. But it's just lovely just letting them express themselves through the technology.
And again, it's that bit where you don't say no, you have to be an adult to do a podcast. You have to know, or even worse, you have to know what you're doing. Because there's no good saying to a child, well, you can't do that because you don't know what you're doing. What you need to say is, of course you can do that, and let me show you what you need to do, and then you can do it yourself. I wonder how much there's an element of control. Well, if we don't teach you, then they won't know, and then we can do it, and we can carry on doing what we're doing, and we don't need to worry about the younger people who often are going to end up being better than us. There's definitely a level of humility, isn't there, in teaching, and watching that young person getting 50,000 likes straight away when we've got 20, and going,
I know, what's that all about? That really annoys me. It's kind of they've got thousands of followers and they get all these likes and that, and it's like, and I'm struggling with my 200 or something like that, and it's like I guess this generation of young people have been born into a world of social media and technology, whereas with I remember a time where it didn't exist, when the internet was just about coming through, and then going through the whole the years of it kind of changing, and how it's really changed the world, hasn't it?
And even I just think, 5 or 6 years ago, or possibly kind of 10 at a push, this person created the song in their bedroom. And now everyone's creating songs in their bedroom. It's completely normal. That's what you do.
I think it was Daniel Bedingfield, or like that, maybe, got to get through this track, and I was like, oh my god, he played it in he made it in his bedroom, and I was like, wow. And now everyone does it.
That's just what you do. But again, it's that kind of accessible thing. We are both working in West Leeds. We're both working for the brilliant Pudsey Wellbeing charity and do some work for them. Me with the choir, and you with your brilliant music box sessions. There's quite a big event coming up. Tell us a little bit about that, because that, even though a lot of our listeners won't be Pudsey based, it's exciting to hear what you're going to do with music in the next few months.
But even if they're Leeds based or West Yorkshire based, they can still engage with what we're doing and what's happening across the city this year. So this year it's the 2023 year of culture in Leeds. So the whole of the city is engaging with different events, and every single ward has been allocated an anchor organisation, so like an arts-based community organisation, and we are the anchor organisation for the ward of Pudsey, which covers Pudsey, Swinnow and Tyersall. And so for our 2023, it's called the My Leeds Summer Project. We are putting on a festival in across the whole ward, across the three different parts, and it's all going to kind of end with a sort of a day of music, like a music festival type thing in Pudsey Park. And so the plan is basically from the 17th of July until the 21st of July, we are programming a series of workshops and events across the area, ranging from music-based workshops, breakdancing workshops, creative writing, arts based like visual arts. There's going to be a performance from the Dramatic Society in Fulneck, school there. There's going to be like an organ recital. So there's all these different things we're programming from the Monday to Friday, and then on a Saturday we're putting on an event in Pudsey Park on a stage with stalls and live music, including your amazing Raise Your Voice choir, who are going to participate in that.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is we are creating a song for the community, the song for Pudsey, and we're going into local schools, we're going into local elderly groups, we're working with your choir to create this song, which we will then teach to as many people as possible. So anyone, we'll put it online, we'll put the lyrics online, we'll put the song up online, anyone can learn the song, so then anyone can take part. And on the 22nd of July, we're going to do a performance of the song, and everyone can participate in that. So and alongside that, other things we're doing a geocaching Pudsey Bear Trail. Obviously,
oh wow, that
quite
sounds fun.
known for the yellow bear,
yeah,
spotted bandage. So we're doing like a trail across the whole ward, like a geocaching trail that people can engage in after the festival as well.
Brilliant.
We're doing a talent contest, and then the main focus is the workshops during that week. So from the 17th of July until the 23rd of July, and the 22nd is in Pudsey Park. The 23rd is going to be down in Swinnow and in Tyersall. So we're wanting to engage everybody across the whole ward. And it's all part of a Leeds 2023 year of culture, and there's loads of stuff happening all across the city. We're doing a festival, other people are doing lots of different events during July and August. So if you go onto the Leeds 2023 website, you'll be able to see all the different events and activities that are happening across the city.
That's super. Okay, so particularly for people in West Yorkshire, but as we've talked about with social media, it will be everywhere, so you'll be able to particularly learn the song and get involved that way, even if you're just singing the song around your house, because we know the words are going to be really, really good, and we're excited to be part of that. Just for anyone that doesn't know, in a nutshell, geocaching, just in case anyone's going, what's a geocache?
I've only found out about it recently, but it's been going on for years.
That's basically what I'm asking, really.
It's like a treasure hunt, really. So I think there's an app that you can go onto, and you basically follow the clues, and then you would find, it's like you find a vessel. So you find a clue and you find whatever it is. It might be like a test tube or something hidden in a wall, and then you take it out, and then you can write your name on it, stuff. And sometimes people leave like a little gift that you can take away with you. But it's basically collecting these geocaching prizes, and it's just like a massive treasure hunt. You can do it all over the country if you go onto the apps or websites. They're everywhere. So,
they are all over, aren't they now? But it's just one of those terms that it's much more in public awareness now. But thank you. Thank you for doing that. So we've come to the part of the podcast where we just put a little challenge or something to think about out to the listeners, and I think you'll agree that we've talked about a lot today, but I think a nice, simple but important challenge or something you can do having listened to this is just put a piece of music on that you like. But do it intentionally. Think about how it makes you feel. Does it make you dance around the kitchen? Does it make you go back to that time with your partner 20 years ago? Does it make you want to just sit down and think about life, the universe, and everything? But do it. Make time to listen to one piece of music and do it intentionally and see how it feels, see what it does. Because as we said right at the top of the podcast, music is powerful. I think Dan said it's life and it's love and something else. Forgive me for not remembering, Dan. Have you got anything else to add to that challenge, Dan?
It was living, so it was love, life, and living, basically.
Living, yeah.
So yeah, and just listen to music. Just listen to music, and wherever you can, as much as you can, listen to different music influences. A really good app I use is called Shazam. I'm sure a lot of people know it, and I always have it on my phone. If you hear a piece of music you love, Shazam it, and then it saves it, and then you can listen back to it. And yeah, don't be afraid to explore different genres, or learn an instrument, or go out dancing to some music you've never listened to before. Do whatever, but yeah, music is amazing. So I'm preaching to the converted. So yeah.
Yeah, no, music is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, my husband listens. He doesn't listen to Shazam. He uses it all the time. He's like, Shazam it, and I have to get the app out and just quick, don't stop. It's like right back in the day when there was a piece of music on and you had to record it on your tape. You had to listen and wait, and yeah, really showing my age now. Okay. Dan, thank you so much for everything you're doing for people in Pudsey and obviously further afield. Thank you for the accessibility with the young people and giving them somewhere to be and someone to be. Thank you for what you've done with our choir and just for being you. You're fab. We are coming to the end and we get to the bit where I now write an on the spot poem. So just give me a moment while I get my thoughts together. Music is a universal language, and it is for everyone, and it is in everyone. Can you let your music breathe? Can you see what's underneath the beat, the lyrics? There's something in it just for you. Does it take you back? Does it make you think of times past or times that you simply want to last forever? Music is for you. Music is in you. Listen. There you go.
Lovely, thank you.
You're welcome. Dan, thank you so much for this morning.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Is there any last things that you want to say before we finish?
No, just really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on here and talk to you. Thank you.
Super. We're going to put a piece of music that you've produced. We're going to play that right at the end of the podcast. So do keep listening, and we'll pop the things that we've talked about in the show notes, the things about the song that I'm going to produce for Pudsey, and the Massive Attack bit. We would like to try and play a bit, but if we can't, we'll pop that in the show notes as well as a link. Dan, thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Thanks, Carol.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.